Good morning, creatives. Today is May 30th, 2022. So anyway, here's a drawing why the model or the partner or the romantic partner doesn't love you. Okay, so we're going to focus once again on Carl Jung, active imagination. Concentrate helps to grow the mind. Focus on a dream, let the unconscious speak, generate an artifact on paper, and analyze the message. So here is the artifact. So anyway, these are my little notes here on Carl Jung and what happens when this happens, when she stops loving you. And we're going to use a framework that is used by creatives. Here I'm bringing back Picasso, Pablo Picasso. Pablo Picasso is a very interesting artist because obviously he was figurative drawer, figurative painter, artist, focused a lot on his relationships and how he was able to surpass betrayal and pain and all that. And what I talked in my last video, how do you frame yourself when you come out of a really bad situation, like a betrayal, okay? The best thing to understand is, that's why today we have, when we do these active imagination and we do psychotherapy and we do psychoanalysis, we have something that, let's say, 100 years from 100 years before, or 1,000 years, or 2,000 years, we really would ask the question why. The person usually never gives us the answer. We never find closure, and what we do is we create trauma. That trauma goes into something we all know called baggage, and we become damaged goods. Some people, like, they cannot overcome their emotions and their feelings. They have baggage. So when they go to another relationship, they usually bring the baggage. What therapy does, at least for me, is, and I've been in psychoanalysis since over 22 years, and what I've learned is through work, you learn to process hardships. And I'm using the romantic space that occupies our existence when we're in love with someone, or we have an LTR, a long-term relationship, or we're married, or we've been dating somebody for 3 years, 5 years, 15 years, and all of a sudden that person stops loving you. Okay? So the artist, usually artists have really high IQs when it comes to their emotional intelligence. Howard Gardner is a psychologist from Harvard, and he talks about emotional intelligence. He talks about intelligence as a whole. There are people that have objective intelligence, and they're really bright with analytical stuff. There are people that have athletic intelligence, and they're amazing with sports and coordination, and they can do a lot of physicalities and very highly coordinated, etc. And then you have people that are creatively, a high creative intelligence. Usually people that are artists, creatives, they have a really high IQ, on their emotional intelligence. What we have to learn, if you have a high IQ in your emotional intelligence, and most people, they outnumber you because they're not at a high level of vibrational, emotional intelligence, you're going to suffer. Because usually when you deal with someone and they're, depending where they're at in their age, and they've been through multiple relationships, they have a tendency that they're damaged. They have baggage. And if they have a low IQ when it comes to emotional intelligence, you're basically spinning your wheels. It's like explaining to somebody quantum mechanics, and they don't have a clue of algebra. They don't have a clue of calculus. So when they stand in front of quantum mechanics, these are quantum drawings. when they start with a very conceptual, and I go then into a forming content, then I start defining my own feelings, my own emotions, and I've been going through my shit. A big betrayal. Now, what I've learned is that I can reframe myself, almost like when a building implodes. You deconstruct. You gotta save whatever you can. You gotta reconstruct. Then you gotta restore, and then you can reframe and you can start over again. Really, there's not a reincarnation. There's a resurrection. You can resurrect yourself by framing yourself, by doing the work. You reframe the framework by work. So I do it with AI. I'm not talking about artificial intelligence, Elon Musk. I'm talking about AI, active imagination of Carl Gustav Jung. Okay? So now we have something called psychotherapy. Once we analyze, the reason somebody stops loving you 90% of the time is because they found somebody else, especially today in modern times, modern relationships. So when a person either ghosts you or they gaslight you or they juggle you or they're not around and they're secretive and they're hiding and they're lying, usually 90%, 93%, they already have somebody else, right? They have somebody else, and you can change genders. It could be male, female. I'm using a masculine and a feminine here because of that's where I'm at. I'm a heterosexual person. I don't care about male and male, female, whatever. But I'm focusing on a framework used by Picasso, used by the animas by Jung. And how do we learn to navigate Carl Jung here, the Carl Jung ego? So usually when somebody has low IQ, emotional low IQ, okay, person could be very bright objectively. They could be very bright athletically. They could be very bright, what have you. They could be very, very bright people. But how bright are they, according to Howard Gardner from Harvard? How bright are they? How bright are they? How smart? How they are with their emotional intelligence? Do they work on it? Being an artist, being a creative, you got to work on your emotional intelligence because it's highly critical. People are always going to shoot you down. You're going to be outnumbered. If you have a sense of style, you have a sense of aesthetic, or you're educated, your culture, people are going to knock you down. They're going to call you all this stuff. They're going to call, especially in today's arena, people will just shoot you down because you don't belong to the collective. You don't belong to the pack. You don't belong to the status quo. You're an independent thinker. I personally don't follow anybody. I don't follow any men, any women. I follow myself. Why? Because I have a high IQ when it comes to my emotional intelligence. I worked on it. I'm not going to say I have a high IQ, but, I worked on quantum mechanics. I worked as a musician. I worked as an artist. I worked on learning to learn about the self. The more you learn about the self, the more you are interconnected, interlaced with your emotions and feelings, then the higher level of vibration you're going to be tapping into, where intuition will come in, synchronicity will come by Jung. Synchronicity will kick in. Synchronicity is interconnected with the quantum reality. When he worked with Wolfgang Pauli, the quantum mechanics physicist, Nobel Prize winner, I think 1946. Synchronicity comes from that. The collective, the unconscious. You want the unconscious to speak. And, Jung, through synchronicity and doing the work with Pauli, they came to the conclusion, both of them, the quantum mechanics and the behavior of subatomic particles like neutrino, which is faster than the speed of light, subatomic particle, they came to the conclusion that our behavior and the collective unconscious is very similar to the behavior of subatomic particles and the behavior that happens within an atom within a nucleus, within the electrons. Very similar. Very similar. One thing that that I'm constantly working on is how do I symmetrically keep my anemas male and female, symmetrical rather than asymmetrical. If they're balanced, I'm going to be able to work my shadow work, self-portrait, shadow work. If I let myself go with this passion space, and this passion space dominates my whole brain, my whole existence, that can linger 3 months, 6 months, 3 years, 30 years if I get stuck here in this square here called the passion space. You're stuck with her. She's not coming back. And if she does, she'll leave again. If that's a pattern, we're talking about the muse, the model, your partner. Once a partner cheats, lies, let him go. Never take him back. Reframe yourself and move on. There are plenty of beautiful kindred spirits out there, beautiful people that have high emotional intelligence, that want to commit, want to be truthful, want to be poetic, want to be in a good space of passion, but within boundaries. You see, this is why framing is very important, because when you have the space here, I don't know if you can see here, there's a little square here that I talk about, the passion space. If that passion space controls you, your whole brain is consumed by that person. I mean, you get up in the middle of the night, boom. You get up in the morning, boom. You're driving the car, boom. You put your head in the pillow, boom. And that's a pattern that's very hard to break, easier said than done, but through working. And you can have a therapy session and the therapist can say something that is extremely pragmatic, can say something that's almost common sense, but coming from the therapist, the therapist will create a stimuli that might have an incredible impact here. Will have an incredible impact on the dream state, or might have an incredible impact once you draw and you generate an artifact on paper and you analyze the message. All my therapy sessions are all based on drawings when I do work with my therapist. And then I study them over the week. Been doing this for years now. And I start getting answers because I want to join Picasso. I want to reframe myself. Look how interesting. Picasso was married. He had a model. He had a muse named Jacqueline Rogue. Jacqueline Rogue was 28. Picasso was 72 when they got married. Picasso was... Picasso wasn't a good person. Picasso was... And there's something about, the dynamics between a man and a woman. Picasso obviously was Pablo Picasso, the artist, right? Famous artist. He didn't have a whole lot of muses. The ones he had were women that he truly loved. Jacqueline was his model, and then the muse became his wife. And I think they had a child together. But the ability, not this guy here. This guy's not Picasso. Or he could be Picasso. Or he could be me. Or he could be you. Doesn't matter. You can change the genders around. But the ability to be droopy and sad and, on the pillow, and she left me because she's with someone else. Not only can she be with someone else, she could be married to somebody else and you never knew about. She could have 3, 4 options, lovers. Because our imagination, our active imagination, if we don't frame it, it takes a hold of us. And then we start She could be doing this, and this, and this. The reality of the fact that a lot of times we're wrong with that. But if we activate and we let the collective unconscious speak, what's going to happen is we're going to start getting intuitions. Those intuitions, and now we know because we have psychology, we have Freud, we have Jung, we have Lacan, we have Gestalt, and on and on. We have Karen Horney, and very important. I've done Karen Horney in New York. Now we know that we can find our own closure based on the work we do with active imagination, where we don't need the person to apologize. We don't need the person to, well, I met this guy, I had a fling, it was a one-night stand, I'm sorry, I'll never do it again. What about if this person has done it in a relationship you've been with this person 10, 15 years, done it 17 times? She's not going to tell you she's done it 17 times. Or he's not going to tell you that he's done it 17 times. You can reverse the roles here, whatever it works. This is not a gender thing. This is an analysis. Once again, an analysis based on Carl Jung, active imagination. How do we respond to the messages that we get psychologically that affects our emotions and our feelings? How do we upgrade our IQ when it comes to emotional intelligence? How do we work on becoming smarter with our emotions? The smarter we become with our emotions and we can control our behavior, the more quantum mechanics will come, the more the universe will talk to us, the more the collective unconscious will speak to us, the more we can move on and create a life that we can frame our own life, not somebody else's life, but our own life that we can call our own life. We can be the actor in our own film. We can be the painter in our own self-portrait. Thank you for watching. Ciao.